Chapter 3 Drala. That night, something died. Because when we look into a mirror, we have access to infinity. Staring into the darkness of my pupil, I saw marsh at dusk when I heard a bird begin to sink and scream. Air bubbles were frantic below the waterline when I heard the creature cry out. Then this bird struggled as it seemed to have been eaten or trapped in another creature's mouth. What is it? I wondered.
Drala, or magic, when two become one, when the outward reality meets the inward, and this central awareness is where all of us come from,
she said. Surely one creature was starving, but now the other one stopped moaning, and this immediate situation was sobering. What sustained one creature destroyed the other. Two realities merging into one. But were they ever even separate from another? Wait, it's when the outward meets the inward? Then a part of me just died. Or is my spirit coming back into myself? Full and empty at once, the mirror held my gaze. Part of the eye was sinking, but who was it that was looking down upon us all? Allah? God? Jesus? Krishna? Or maybe Shiva?
Drala,
she said. Who or what are the Dralas?
it is not something, but it is a way to be. This is presence of our sacred world when the awareness within merges with the true nature of reality. It happens on the spot, when reality and you come together. Much like taking a shower, there seems to be a sudden shock from the onset of the water. That splash awakens you into the present, yet it's always here sparkling before our eyes. Often we forget that the moment is right in front of us, and that's why the separate parts come to die. The Dralas could be thought of as the ancient idea of a kami. Picture it like an invisible force lingering around here, there, and everywhere. Because it's our bridge back to the sacred world. It's like an invitation to rediscover what's always been here,
she said. The sacred world? Is that what this place is?
The sacred world is not a place, but a state in which we live. When we honor all things, all beings, and all experiences, we unite with Drala, which descend upon us in our world. This force of awakening arises as elemental, outward, or internal. When Drala descends, it's like a sacred angel looking over, guiding us forward, sitting right upon your shoulder. And so this onset of Drala has a certain presence or exposure. You might realize it's there. You might not. But it doesn't matter if you see it, because it's the meeting between two halves. Student and teacher, dark and light. We break to discover the sacredness of life. Now the moment this happens, the moment this death occurs, we open our awareness and see the sacredness that has always been existing there. It doesn't matter what you call it. It doesn't matter your opinion about it. The sacredness has always been there, whether you like it or not. This direct presence is an immediate connection when our reality becomes aligned. As we rise, the Drala descends as our awareness first observes this union from the point of view of the mind. We may first notice that we were unaligned, but now, in the discovery, we remember that in sacredness, everything is quite fine. Not only is it fine, but we discover we have a sense of peace of mind. In one way, the Drala cuts our experience and brings us into a vision where we feel ourselves as free. A state of liberation. It feels like a state of heaven. And the Drala, which could be thought of as a kami, seem to awaken us into this feeling. It's a reminder of how sacred it is to exist. And this reawakening opens us into the place of freshness. This also happens to be the home, or the Om, we meet after death. It's energy over aggression. We let go of hoping for a desired outcome. We need nothing else. This wakefulness is self-existent, and yet I wonder, is this what humanity seems to forget? Now take a moment and be here now. Just sit with it,
she said. We sat before the mirror, feeling more and more free. There a feeling of nostalgia arose when an old memory consumed all we could see. It didn't matter a stone from a fig, a tree from a squirrel, a human from an animal, boy or girl. It was all happening, and it was all right on time. Now what was this tremendous wisdom within the moment that I'd come to find?
Drala. Many cultures and traditions point to this experience of a connection to the elemental. We are opening to wisdom beyond one's individual self. Yet this universal experience is extremely personal,
she said. Now there was a mountain in the mirror, and I was certain it was alive. Why, in this moment, I could see a miracle. There was life before our eyes. The wind blew past. Now 2 deer emerged. They checked the coast to see if it was safe. Then came the herd. In the present moment, we were stunned. All of life was right here. And so if we embrace the mystery of this moment, we move beyond fear.
Drala, which is akin to Kami, is that of spirit. No different than when the waters of baptism may have washed over us. Such water pulls us into the present, and the presence of awareness is where we find contact with the now. We are in union to the present moment. This is Drala, the way, the truth, the light, and yet some call it the Tao. Drala refers to the use of direct sense perceptions to overcome conceptual mental fixation. In such an awakening, our mind's intellect is interrupted, and we are absorbed into the present moment out of confusion,
she said. In the mirror, I was busy rushing around. My senses used to worry if I might be late. But Drala was only concerned with being.
And when we can be in the present, we are relinking our observing awareness into an unlimited state. Mountains are not in a rush, nor are the trees. And when the fall comes, it's a natural emptying process as the trees release all their leaves. There is no clinging or grasping. Nature simply lets it all go. Nothing to do and nowhere to go. Drala is a connection to the sacred world. This type of union is freeing, a relinking of heaven and earth. It is the awareness within nature that knows how to act in a state of pure being, not pushing anything away, not pulling anything in, not accepting or rejecting. It is a process of profound surrendering and transformation. As such separateness fades, we come back into wholeness. We see things as they really are, rather than trying to dominate the world or control it. When we are separate, we as individuals or countries might want to conquer or win. But by being open to the mystery of life, we find there are no limitations. We are of the earth. We are with the wind and the trees. We exist in the body, but this human vehicle is only temporary. This is the state of a Kami, totally free, not concerned with opinions or judgments. It's a state that is content to simply be. In this state of being, you could say magic appears. It catches us by surprise, as our awareness connects to the ultimate frontier,
she said. Looking in the mirror, I walked down the street and smiled at everyone, because I knew they too were the soul in disguise, and divinity was woven through everyone and everything. But it takes a new view on reality to see the simple truth with human eyes. Imagine if we treated everything as if it was sacred. all war would cease. We would find a way to cultivate love and harmony, and within an instant, the entire world would find peace. Imagine if religion didn't separate us, but rather it brought us home into love. This unlimited grace and compassion is the highest realization, and so we know this as God. God created everything, and God has many names. God is so vast that it weaves spirit through the elements and manifests in all kinds of faces. Some aspects of spirit wears human skin. Other spirit wears fur or hooves. Some spirit remains thick and heavy like rock, and other spirit likes to live outside of form, where it's free as it moves. Imagine if you found out that spirit was real. Would you want to honor it and teach others about this great revelation? And so this is what great teachers have done as they cultivated the pathways to God throughout every religion. Imagine if you found out that God was real 3,000 years ago and you were living in the land of India. Well, since those humans didn't speak English, the Hindus named God Krishna. Imagine if you found God in the Middle East and the person who shared his experience was named Muhammad. This wisdom was so profound that the Islamic religion calls him the great prophet. Imagine if you found God in yourself, and the only way you could teach others meant that you had to die. Then you would know Jesus' sacrifice, and because his love was so great, he was willing to be crucified. Imagine that God comes down to us in many forms, over and over again. But since most humans are busy not realizing the divinity of life, we forget how all of life is woven by a Holy Spirit. Imagine how time passes, and our future children need to be reintroduced to the grace of God's love. Over and over, God sends down messengers, teachers, and Drala to show us signs from above. Imagine that you found God right now. Then how would you describe this revelation in the present moment? Your life would never be the same from here on out, and so you'd have to keep on living in the same world, around the same people, with new insight that you hadn't noticed before. How would you interact with a world that couldn't see what you saw? How would you live from here on out, knowing that everything was in fact created from the essence called God? Yet it's unknown and invisible. It cannot be created or destroyed. And so we use religions to teach others about this divine force, where we invite others to join. When followers come together, we form a congregation and community, often led by a teacher or prophet. We can take refuge in the teacher, the community, and the teachings. We may call this a religion, but it doesn't mean it's the only one upon the earth. Why, depending on where we live, how we speak, and the experiences we've found, this all guides us upon the ways in which our community can learn. Imagine that God's revelation of divinity disrupted the normal ways of life. How would our controlling governments or rulers view such a breakthrough? They may try to change the teachings to favor their own ideas, so it's quite possible they would mislead me and you. In the 23rd chapter of Matthew, it states, "Scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you lock people out of the kingdom of heaven, for you do not go in yourselves, and when others are going in, you stop them." Over and over it happens. Some leaders prefer domination and control. They may be aware of God, but yet they are trapped by their ego. They grasp to their own personal ideas. It's as if they are afraid of the unknown. It seems they cannot embrace how change is the way of the universe, and so they cling to the ways of the old rather than let go. Now imagine if we changed, and we learned to accept all people. This was Jesus' mission after all, not to buy land, hoard money, or even erect crosses upon steeples. Of course we can honor our teachers, but we cannot limit the teachings of love. Jesus spoke of one universal community, and so we must include all teachings under the universe of God. Every tradition has masters, and from these brave souls the teachings ripple. But in a confused world, such wisdom may make teachers appear as rebels. Look to Jesus, who was crucified. Examine Moses, who parted the Red Sea. Again and again, the confused world does not understand the true nature of reality. The world is lost, and has been lost for quite a while. But upon earth, there are still souls who are aware of the truth, even though many are not tuned into the proper channel.
Embrace the mystery. Don't get caught up on history. The future is wide open, and the only way we come together is when we contemplate, discuss, and respect all teachings to recall that love is always the answer. We have more in common than the differences which may appear. The truth is that we are all of the Spirit, and that Spirit is a divine seer,
she said. So the real question is how to become aware of the spiritual force that cannot be seen, which could be called God, Brahma, Jehovah, or Allah.
We awaken to the sacred world, and so we call it Drala, she said.